So what we'll do today is we'll do working group updates, and I'll call the chairs up one at a time. We'll do some presentations, and maybe we have time for questions at the end. So Tim Winters, can you please come up? Hi, Tim.
All right, let's see. Okay, so I'm here for the certification working group, which actually is going to involve all the guys that go after me a little bit, but I'll talk about that. So 2023, what we did this year is we created the group started late last year, halfway through the year in 22. So in 23, what we've done is we created a program guide. It's available on the prpl website. You can get it, go there, and find out all the information. The program guide includes a lot of information for people who want to do the testing, how they do the testing, lifecycle management, all the boring stuff that happens, but we need to have for part of a certification program. So we laid out all of that. More fun stuff that we have is we have a high-level API test plan. That's available on the prpl website, so that goes through all the test cases that we want people to run. And then as part of that, we needed to publish a data model that people could look at and see for what they're required to do. So those were all documents or output from the working group this year. Additional things we're going to try to wrap up this year. There are two things. One is we want to get a high-level device certified. After we were kind of waiting for 3.0, I think there'll be a couple of devices that'll be aiming for this by the end of the year. And then we're going to start working on prplOS certification. Really what we're doing there, the high-level API is really focused on seeing parameters, making sure that so a container application knows exactly what things are in the high-level API. That's why we wanted to do that certification first. prplOS is the idea that you can set those parameters and make sure the device does the right thing. So the easy example I'll give is you make sure you can put a hole in the firewall, packets go through, you can close the hole in the firewall, and then packets do not go through. That's kind of where we're headed with prplOS. And the big question that I've gotten is, definitely got a lot of this today at our demo, where are the certifications for low-level API, prplMesh, and LCM? And the answer is they're coming. We're going to work on those all next year. I cannot promise they'll all be done next year, but that's where the working group's going to spend a lot of effort. You're going to hear some of my colleagues come up and talk about their individual working groups and what they're up to, and we'll be working with each one of those individually. That's why the certification group's kind of unique in that we have to work with individual working groups to output the certifications from their work. So that's what we're going to do in 24.
So Tim, can you please explain the importance of self-testing?
Oh, yeah. So one of our charter things is self-certification. And the reason we push for that is I'm sure a lot of you have been involved in certification programs that require people to go to labs. As a person who worked at a lab for 20 years, I totally see the value in those. In this case, what we were trying to do is create a self-certification program that allows people to do the testing on their own, get the test tools there, run them on a regular basis, and then just submit those results, and then you get certified. So if you're running this as part of your CI/CD, it's really easy to get the certification. We want to make it easy and so that everybody can do it, and that's one of the goals of their working group.
So you do your tests in your own lab?
Yes.
And decide whether or not to submit the results to prpl for official certification.
You got it. It's that easy.
Okay, and if
there is some testing involved. It's not all pass, sorry.
And there's a machine to help you do your testing?
Oh, yes. Yeah, you have to have a CD router right now to run this testing. Obviously, as we go forward with things like low-level and LCM, we're going to be adding additional tooling. But yeah, a CD router, you do need that to actually run the testing.
And this machine is on demo right outside the hall?
Yeah, it's right outside. If you guys want to come see it, there's a booth over there on the far side. You can come see me, and I'll happily explain to you what we've got going on.
So the machine will come with prpl software tests, and those set of tests will be enhanced over time.
Yes, we're definitely, this is an evolving test program. As prpl comes out with new releases, we're obviously going to want to test new stuff.
Great. Any questions from the crowd? Okay. Okay, let me call the chair of the prplOS working group and my colleague at MaxLinear, Olaf Wachendorf.
Hello, everyone. So I don't need to start explaining why we need prplOS. So that was already excessively discussed in the morning, and we all agree, happy to see that there's a value of doing what we do. Oh yeah, please. So let me see that I can also read it. That's very small here. So I put too many small topics there. But yeah, let me say the biggest achievement this year is certainly we made it to release prplOS 3.0 just in time for the summit. It was a huge effort and numerous people have contributed to get here. So we did a heavy lifting, adapted OpenWrt 2203, moved to a new Linux kernel. And I mean, the other big challenge was also to bring it to 2 completely new platforms, right? I mean, the MaxLinear platform was there already in the CI last year, but we also got a second platform into our CI and into the game. That's WNC's Haze platform. And I mean, that's what we do in prplOS, right? So we really want to have support for multiple carrier-grade platforms. And it's great achievement for the whole working group and everyone who contributed that we could achieve that in time, right? So we're really celebrating prplOS 3.0 today, which was just released last week. So great achievement. So you see the number of additional topics that we have addressed. There's Wi-Fi 6 gigahertz support as well. Oh, I forgot, a number of other components got upgraded. So there's prplMesh, Purple Wireless Hardware Manager, LCM. So prplOS is integrating all of these components, all the Purpleware components into one release. We did replace some of the components. So on the DHCP client side, there's a new component that's now maintained by Purple, DHCP v4 client. We also replaced the local DNS server by Unbound, which is another open source project, well-known one, right? So we have replaced some of these components. And I mean, there's a new global scheduler, which allows you to switch on, switch off certain features like the Wi-Fi if you want to. And another tier 181 standardization upgrades if you want on some features, don't want to touch all of those. So, I mean, you see the big feature that we really did is the uplifting on the OpenWrt and kernel side. And then several, I mean, lots of smaller enhancements as well. And that's on the prplOS itself. I mean, prplOS is one thing, but we also need to validate it. So this year we have put in place, I should do it. We have put in place XGS-PON in our CI. So we have Nokia OLT, as you can see, and it's up and running. So, and the first platform that's fully integrated there is MaxLinear Anyone URX. But yeah, welcome to other platforms as well, of course, to validate their XGS-PON. And yeah, there's also a number of ideas for next year that we can embrace. So first and foremost, of course, we want to see deployments of prplOS, right? So want to get our product into the field, get it to the users, to the king, as we've learned, get it out. And yeah, there's a question mark that was there behind OpenWrt upgrade and kernel upgrade. I'm a bit skeptical. So we had last year a 4.x kernel and an older release of OpenWrt. So we made the move now. It took us 9 months to stabilize it. I'm not convinced we should go and upgrade again next year. So we should stabilize what we have and get to deployments. There's still a lot of things to do, right? Evolution of application development framework. As we've seen, all the nice demos outside, right? So they're based on that framework. So that needs enhancements. And we will see Wi-Fi 7 for sure next year coming up. You can see already the platforms outside with Wi-Fi 7 support. That's great. There's an idea to go into Wi-Fi extenders with prplOS. That's good power management. I mean, you've seen some of the demos focus on power management as well. That's something that's currently not integrated in prplOS. Meta we have seen as demos here as well. That's something to be further integrated. Fixed wireless access, we've also seen demos outside. I mean, you can see platforms are being prepared for fixed wireless access. That's a topic prplOS can pick up. Then, I mean, that's another big area of monitoring. So both on the gateway level itself, but then also on the process level. For example, you want to see what all these containers are doing, how much they are writing to your flash, for example, to wear out the flash. You want to have a control on that, but many other counters as well. Yeah, I've shown it on the first slide, right? So there are today 2 carrier-grade platforms in the game. We want to see more. The list goes on. Touchscreen support is a request or an idea that's there. Then on the DHCP v6 side, can we add additional carrier grade enhancements to that one? LCM hardening on the security side, working with the security working group, obviously. And I mean, the list is probably not complete, hard at this point to be complete, but I mean, all your ideas are welcome at this point. Just approach us, bring in your thoughts and ideas, and we will see what we can do for next year. And what I also wanted to mention is, I mean, we have basically integrated with all the support from SoftAtHome, the milestone 1 release just now. There are 2 more milestones coming this year, although we are already in the 4th quarter. So there's more to come that's not on the list here. So yeah, it's great to see the momentum, great to see all of you here. Thanks, and that's it from my side.
Okay, I'd like to invite Frederik. He's the project leader for prplMesh effort, and he's going to speak about prplMesh. Come on up, Frederik.
Thank you very much, David. So yeah, I'm here to talk about the updates to the prplMesh project. Yeah, first of all, in 2023, we had a lot of advancements, a lot of successes. So some of these things are still in progress, I should say, but overall, we are working on EasyMesh Release 4 and Release 5 support. Some of the first in the world, I believe, to support it. So that includes such features as BSS coloring, also known as spatial reuse, and service prioritization, which we are very excited to be able to show you. If you want a small preview of that, you can visit us later at the demo site. And we are now working on EasyMesh Release 5, and more to come in the next year. We're also quite proud of our collaboration with Cable Labs. So shout out to Steve, who's here today. Yeah, over there. Yeah, hi Steve. Yeah, so we had an awesome collaboration with Cable Labs for their virtual BSS project. So also check out Steve's demo later on. Yeah, another major effort that we've done is the wireless hardware manager adoption. So yeah, SoftAtHome has helped us out a great deal by providing a new unified platform-independent framework for us to use that kind of replaces the vendor-specific and inflexible backends that we had before. And also gives us a unified implementation of the device.wi-fi TR181 data models. So thank you very much, SoftAtHome, for contributing that. Yeah, it really shows us that that prpl is all about collaboration. I'm really proud that we can work together with so many different companies to create so many great pieces of the puzzle. Yeah, in addition to that, we've had platform-independent persistent storage of configuration settings as well. This also was contributed by SoftAtHome, and then backhaul optimization refinements as well as Wi-Fi sensing basics. So we have the basic framework now for Wi-Fi sensing. Again, more to come in that area very soon. So yeah, let's talk about 2024. So in 2024, we hope to add even more carrier-grade hardware support. So yeah, for that, we hope to attract as many companies as we can, really, and collaborate on that. Yeah, the other main thing is we want to go into Wi-Fi 7. So yeah, the latest Wi-Fi standards introduces multi-link optimization, and yeah, I think that's going to be a really big deal, and we want to be there, and we want to have that fully supported by the end of 2024. So yeah, fingers crossed. There's also other great advancements in Wi-Fi that have been made. So Wi-Fi puncturing Wi-Fi automated frequency coordination to enable 6 gigahertz at standard power. It's also going to be a massive thing because it really increases the bandwidth that you get with Wi-Fi, and if we can coordinate that across the network, it's going to be a big deal. We also aim to go into DPP, which is a successor for WPS pairing, which also allows us to enhance the security of home networks by enabling IEEE 1905 security features, and also enabling DPP cloud provisioning of access points, and which is another great way of smoothing the adoption of access points. And yeah, finally, we hope to massively increase also Wi-Fi sensing capabilities in collaboration with our other Purple partners. So yeah, that's mainly it for the features list. And then there's also the testing and certification. That's always been a core pillar of the prplMesh development. So we've always used Wi-Fi Alliance EasyMesh testbeds to do certification ourselves. So we don't just brag about supporting EasyMesh standards. We have the data to back it up. So we use these testbeds for weekly, daily, and daily tests, and we also use them for our CI and CD process. So the next stage that we are going to do is we're not just going to use external Wi-Fi Alliance certification, but we're also going to do prpl certification. So I look forward to working with Tim in this regard. So previously we've been using Board Farm for some of our internal testing. So one of the things that we're now working on, that's now in the concept stage, is to pivot that to using CD router based testing as well, and to certify prpl's additional superset. So prplMesh is not just EasyMesh. We have an extensive northbound API, and we have some other interesting features that we want to and we want to enable certification for that as well. So that's also going to be a major part of our 2024 releases. So yeah, that's all I've got for you today. So if you want to learn more, feel free to talk to me outside at our demo. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Frederik. Thank you, Frederik. At this time, I'd like to invite Wouter Cloetens to the stage. He's the chair of the low-level API working group.
What's next? Yeah, there we go. Test. Okay. I'm going to spend a few words because not a lot's been said about the low-level API working group today, so I'm going to talk a bit about it. I absolutely loved the presentation by Vantiva about chess. I would say that was a fantastic allegory. I would say that Linux and the low-level API maybe is the chessboard, without which none of the parts can play with each other, right? So it's the hidden enabler behind anything that we're doing in prpl or in general on a Linux-based router stack. So I liked the presentation, what Len said in his I think in his opening talk as well, as in he made the comparison with the PC world. Yeah, sure, in the PC world, you buy a computer, it has a CPU, it has network interfaces, it has storage. You wouldn't think that this just works on Linux. Just load Linux and just recognizes all of the drivers. Did that kill off all competition between the different vendors? Is there only one vendor of PCs left? No, there isn't. It's a thriving ecosystem. So this is not the low-level API is for sure not a problem for the silicon vendors, but the lack of this standardization for sure is an impediment to further evolution, because you have seen all of these people talk about their app integration, and I think Bitdefender were the ones who went into it most. An app integration today is, and we get this all the time, a vendor comes to us, says we want to do a proof of concept, we have this app, and the first thing they'll say is that we have an integration with this and this and this and this silicon vendor. Why is that even necessary? And then you go, okay, can we integrate into your gateway? Can we integrate into your build system? Can we get your tool chain? Can we, how do we interact with this on this particular platform of yours? What are these specifics? And it easily becomes a process that's 3 to 6 months before you have a proof of concept running. And if you want to do an integration, 2 years maybe is a realistic minimum for that. It can be better. There really is, for app developers, essentially, the fact that there is no clean abstraction is terrible. And that and for hardware vendors, essentially, this is also a problem, ODMs, to do this integration. And for system integrators, it's awful. So this is the biggest impediment to quick adoption and quick time to market of features and improvement for the king, right? The end user. Let's see. Right, so I'm going to explain this a little bit. So you have the Linux kernel at the bottom. That's not part of what prpl delivers. You have the silicon vendors and their board support package, which has device drivers, which are hidden behind standard layers in the Linux kernel. Mostly, the low-level API is adopting what's in the Linux kernel. We're not inventing new things, mostly. We're mostly just saying, this is the interface in Linux that you need to use. So the low-level API is not so much a layer as it is a standard saying what you need to use. Various prplOS services, this was explained, but I'd like to touch a little bit more on that. Various prplOS services use standard interfaces. We have a, let's see, what is a good one? prplMesh is especially a good one because it interacts with Ethernet, the Linux bridge, because it's 1905, so it needs to capture the wired links as well, and the wireless driver. 3 different aspects of the low-level API that it needs to interact with. Then, and other services you have there as well. Firewall capabilities, the packet offload, the packet intercept capability is there as well, and that's essentially what you see in the components above that. And then above that, you have the data model and you have the interaction. I'll come back to this later while this is relevant. Benefits, policies. Aligning with open source is actually not just only the Linux kernel. What we did for cellular is we went for the open source component called Modem Manager, which already supports all the modems, and we agreed with the silicon vendors that they would provide the support for that. And obviously for wireless, we also have HostAPD and WPA supplicant to take care of all of the authentication on top of the 802.11 wireless protocols. Accomplishments in 2023. Small thing is that we agreed on a way to name Ethernet ports and the Linux interfaces, because you might have issues between different hardware of, well, which is which port is which. It's a fairly trivial one. Cellular, I mentioned it, managed to get the 2 most relevant vendors, Qualcomm and MediaTek, in the same room, and, well, virtually, I must say, and agree on using Modem Manager and providing a support layer for that. So this is now, we can use with the same software stack, not integrated in prplOS yet, but we've done this in RDKB already. You can have a single management layer for that. A big one that we did was QoS across the Wi-Fi mesh with prplMesh. We managed to get all the wireless silicon vendors in the room and say, okay, what do we need to do actually across your extenders with wired backhaul links, with wireless backhaul links? How are packets that need to be prioritized in a certain way going to travel through that? Driving the point home that it's not just about the API, the low-level API, but it's also the expected behavior from the silicon vendor. There's a lot of that going on. Wi-Fi sensing, we put a lot of effort into that. You'll see the demo of phase 1, which is just mostly a demo, a single client, proprietary interface to a silicon vendor with proprietary data. Phase 2 will try to standardize the API towards Linux, the actual low-level API. and then also encapsulate the different types of traffic in a certain way, have the ability to send the data to multiple applications, apps that need it. Phase 3 would be the more advanced case where we start going distributed over the network. It leaves the realm of the low-level API. It goes more into prplMesh and other functionality around that. But we got 3 different silicon sensing vendors, and now we have a 4th one with Global Logic here today, to sit in the low-level API call together with all the wireless silicon vendors to discuss how this needs to go forward openly with each other. The accomplishment is to a great extent getting the right people in the room together who will speak openly without having to worry about, well, you know, these are my competitors. Just as the conversation here between AT&T and Verizon, we should be mortal enemies. No, you have actually just the same way as the silicon vendors have a shared goal here, a shared benefit from this collaboration. And then Wi-Fi 7, that one I will touch on a little bit more later, but we also got and this time, really all of the wireless silicon vendors in the room. There are a few challenges. I'll go over this quickly because we don't have a lot of time. It's difficult to find. We have people all the way from Taiwan and China up to California, so it's tricky. We have virtually no resources for the low-level API working group. We should really need to engage more with the open source communities, but no resources. Compliance is going to be difficult. You heard about certification. How are you going to do that? Well, you don't just plug a box into a CD router and it'll just work. So it'll have to be a combination of doing code audits. Actually, you know, people saying that our platforms were great on prplOS and we are using everything in the low-level API that is standard. Is it? Let's check. Let's check. Let's go through the code and let's see if there's anything that we might have missed, to be honest. Huh? So maybe somebody might have done the integration. Some programmer said, oh yeah, I need to call this interface. And we might have completely missed that in the low-level API. So I expect a benefit from that as well, not just policing. We could do black box testing, because if you look at this slide, just by doing, it's not quick, just by doing the prplOS services and the prplMesh, if you test those at the data model level from a CD router, for example, you will test functionally the low-level API if we've audited that those components actually use the low-level API. And then there's going to be some part of white box testing in there. You know, does the LED go on? Does it set the right brightness? This one might be hard to automate. There are some things that will be difficult. Then the call to action. What do we need to do before this? And this is the more realistic and less of the yay, look at what we did talk. We can do things to improve. Wi-Fi 7 was a bit of a problem, as in the Linux community worked on it, implemented the new what is it, 496 QAM and the new traffic rates, etc. Those are pretty straightforward. Then implemented MLO that went into WPA supplicant and host APD as well this year, pretty late in the game. And in the meantime, the silicon vendors just implemented a proprietary API. So now they have a problem. They have a proprietary API that they might have deployed with customers that they need to support, and they also need, for new customers, to implement a standard API, the standard low-level API, and they need to maintain both. And in the meantime, the standard API is there later, which delays projects of customers who need that. Nobody won here. The silicon vendor did not win here, right? So if the low-level API meetings are an open room. Please come and talk before you start implementing a proprietary API. Come and talk to us and say, hey guys, what do you think about this thing? What are we going to do here? Right? That's what I want to see the low-level API working group become. And then just final slide, I'll go over this quickly. These are the wish list of things that people have pushed onto it. IoT, I don't think, sorry, IoT 8.15, not 25.4. It's 2025 soon. The Bluetooth Low Energy, I expect to be straightforward, but we have to analyze it. It's in the Linux kernel already. We need to check if that's good enough for Matter and thread integration, etc. So for Wi-Fi 7, we'll need to do a gap analysis. we think we have everything for MLO and for other things. Is there anything missing? Can we identify that? The additional the phases for Wi-Fi sensing I've mentioned. There's a request to standardize a display, which is straightforward, a touchscreen. I don't know, I have to check into that. SFPs are just the little modules that you can plug into those devices. Should be straightforward. There's something in the Linux kernel, but we need to model it. Power consumption's been a big effort. There are things already in the low-level API, but there's more that we can do. So I'm actually really looking forward to Orange coming forward and seeing what they've done specifically for optimization on the Livebox that we can reuse. My biggest concern is that, yeah, sure, there's a way. Sure, we need to define an interface, a way to turn off hardware, but it also, again, the king it just has to work. That's what somebody else says. That's the main thing. If you switch off wireless, how do you switch it on again? Is there really a home environment nowadays where the wireless is switched off all the time? What can we do with devices connected, but with a limited bandwidth and limited usage, just alive at night? Let's see what we can do there. There's also a request to put more focus on multicast, mostly IPTV multicast. We'll see how we handle that. Certification, I mentioned that. We need to work on that. And then I'd actually, if we have the resources, I'd like to implement some of the things that we defined this year. I'd like to see those ending up in prplOS for sure. And yeah, we have some work to do there. That's it for me.
Thank you, Wouter. I'm happy to invite João Freitas to the stage. João is the mastermind and chair of both the prplLCM working group and the high-level API working group.
Thank you, David, and thanks everybody for joining. I have a short presentation today. I'm very happy to see that this summit we had a lot of presentations about applications, LCM, and so on. So I feel it's unnecessary to go through that again. But I also sense a lot of excitement, a lot of chess, and so on. I also found a nice, interesting presentation. So I'm having an idea. Should we demo a chess game as an application and a gateway for next year? I think that this is going to bring a lot of excitement. Okay, let's start. So it's really 3 slides. As you know, the LCM working group looks after, of course, LCM. This is something we've been building for a while. So most of the functionality has been there for some time already. We created specifications, requirements, source code, and we even have some testing. So in this slide, we really want to give you an overview on what we have achieved most recently. So I have broken down this into multiple pieces. So we have released 2 different versions this year. One in July 1.4, and another one is coming now in October. But in addition to this, we have a lot of code commits. So I don't want you to leave this presentation with the idea that we are just creating 2 releases per year. This is happening much more frequently. It's just sometimes we just tag it and announce it. Hey, this is when we feel now we have something more stable, and we label that as a version. In addition to that, we also had other builds, which I think are worth mentioning. So I saw console thread also around. We had, for example, contributions like CRAN being upstream in February. So I know most of you are probably more familiar with LXC, but some platforms also leverage on other container runtime environments such as CRAN. So we are bringing that capability in order to be even a bit more inclusive, because we want to empower you, to give you the tools to fight against each other. And we also we also introduced OCI runtime bundles. So here we need to be mindful, because sometimes we can get lost into technical jargon, and OCI images have been around for a while. So we work with standardizations. We try to make sure these things are compatible. But one of the things that we have also introduced was the unbundling in the cloud, so which we could do some further customization before downloading it to the CPU. So we can look into that after the presentation. Then from a features point of view, we keep on enhancing the management of constraints and privileges, because we realize that there's always a little bit more that can be done. So this is what we mean by container additional rights, like the network config. Does this application need access just to the LAN? Does it need access to the WAN? Does it need access to both? So these are the kind of capabilities that we are introducing. Actually, we have introduced. Then there's this one which I also find it interesting. I don't know if the name rings any bells. It's what we are labeling as pre-embedded container and auto detection. I actually found it funny because I was sitting next to some colleagues, and they were asking me, okay, what about this functionality? And I said, guess what? It's already coming. So a lot of excitement here, but basically with LCM, we of course have the ability to download the applications and remove them dynamically. But sometimes the container or the application is already in the firmware, and it might still make sense to manage it. Maybe you just want to update it. Maybe you want to remove it because it's deprecated. So these kind of capabilities have also been introduced. Looking from a platform perspective, we have already demoed LCM in prplOS. We have already demoed it in RDK. But this year, we did it also using RBUS in RDK. So that's a little delta that we are bringing on, and it's important for some of the companies that work with RDK. I have kept prplOS in the slides, but it wasn't really an achievement. It was already there. I just wanted to really signal the message that both platforms are supported at this stage. Looking at improvements, of course, bug fixes, these things are natural. We just have to keep improving reliability and stabilization. So there have been a couple. So it's code which is actually being maintained. And so I think that's a very positive thing. And there's also performance optimizations, like doing things in parallel. So all of these things are being taken into consideration. Of course, data models. LCM is meant to deploy applications, but LCM also needs to be managed because you need APIs to constrain the applications and so on. So again, we have introduced a couple of more things, and we have plans to continue on doing that. So in my next slide, data model extensions, that's one of the things that we want to continue doing it. So if you see gaps, if you see deltas, come to the working group, raise it, and we will work together. So I think we are proud to say that we are a community that listens, and I think that makes us all stronger. So please don't take this roadmap as this is what we are going to do next year. No, this is just a wish list of some of the things that already came out. If you have a good idea, if you see something else, then raise it, and we'll have a discussion about this. But again, quick summary, data models, we want to keep closing gap because we work proactively and we keep standardizing things. There's also management of the Linux capabilities, a little bit more granularity in terms of access controls, constraints. So we keep enhancing, bringing more and more security alongside with it. Bug fixes again. As we deploy more devices, there's always new scenarios and more things that we discover. So we are planning to keep on working on that. And of course, make sure that these things run in different platforms as stable as they can be. That's what I also mean by interoperability improvements in RDK. From a scope perspective, I think there are three things that I can probably quickly highlight. So multicast discovery, basically just giving a little bit more extra capabilities into making sure that LCM is smart. It can recognize the applications, but it can also help the applications avoid re-implementing some of those capabilities that get reused over and over again. That's the part. And privileged containers, this is something that when we talk about containers, there's always these questions. Is it privileged? Is it unprivileged? I mean, today we already support both, to be honest, but there's always small caveats and ins and outs. So we want to keep making sure that there's full support on privileged containers as well. I think that's going to be important. Application data, which again, applications, they can run in containers, but they will also have their data. And we want to make sure that we want to help you application developers also manage that and share that application as necessary. Last slide, and to wrap things up, quick things about certification, or maybe more, if you will, testing or validation itself. There are 3 levels, and this is a question that I get a lot. What is being done on LCM? And I would say that there are essentially 3 things being done. So looking at the code, we have unit tests. It's difficult to give you a concrete number because LCM is comprised of multiple modules. Some modules might have 50% code coverage, others might have a little bit more. So that's the reason why I'm giving you a range. But the important message is the LCM code is being validated, okay? So that should bring some confidence out there. The second level of testing that we have is on the integration level. So we test the APIs. The APIs in this case are TR181 data models. Tim has spoken a little bit about this, but in this case of LCM, we use device.software modules. That's that's something which is part of the LCM certification. CD Router can also help you validate those things. And then finally, we also have system tests or end-to-end tests, if you will, because you can always play a little around with command lines and trigger these things. But at the end of the day, we want to use these things into production, right? So we need a remote management protocol. We need a way to interface with this. And in this case, we are using USB for that. But of course, we understand that, backends is a very difficult conversation, and we want to make sure that we are developing in LCM in a way which can also be used with TR69 or even other protocols out there. So thanks for listening. That's all I have for today.
Thank you, João. Okay, next I'd like to invite Brendan Black from Vodafone. He's the chair of the Security Assurance Working Group.
Hello. Small in-joke. Evgueni won't be joining us. Sorry. So I like to keep this up because...
Can you see these?
Oh yeah, true. That's a good idea. I'm not going to be in my neck now. I like to keep this in there that I'm not a security expert. I've only been doing this for 4 years. I'm a network engineer, architect. I work for Vodafone. I'm completely neutral. We entirely rely on experts joining the calls. It's entirely collaborative. So if you want to affect where we go, if you want to affect the APIs, if you want functionality, you need to join in. That's the biggest thing that we need. So, and recently we've had some really good feedback. So, but we'll go on with that. So what we do is that we create the security standards based on best practices. Now, my background is actually in standards, so I have quite a lot of experience in doing that. And then driving the security practices is a long-term thing that's going to keep going. So what do we do? We've got the Purple Packet Intercept API, so that was implemented earlier this year. Thanks to Martin for that, SoftAtHome. We recently had some excellent testing and feedback from Bitdefender. I've thanked some of you in person. That's resulted in some speed improvements and a possible approach, a relatively secure approach for creating a fast path as well. I've just had a recent discussion with someone about secure manufacturing data. So we want to secure sensitive data embedded in the CPE. We want a standard way rather than a proprietary way of passing that data from the bootloader to the kernel, for instance. So we got Purple Secure Boot requirements published. So that was based on work from Eric Vallette at Orange. We took that and we refined it and generalized it. It was a massive piece of work, but there's a good lot of data, a good lot of information in there. And then also from his work, we created the Secure Boot white paper, which is a general introduction to how to understand how Secure Boot works. So what we're working on in future, very hopefully, we need to work out what the priorities are yet though. So this purple flash layout has been underway for a little while. For specialization and for some of the stuff that we need coming up, we need a standard flash layout that includes like standard names for partitions and stuff like that. So like secure firmware upgrade, we have a big discussion. There's a discussion between sys upgrade and sys updates and software update, and we need to compare that and work out what the solution is going to be. We've been requesting software bill of materials for a while as a way of automating our security. So we know all of the chain of what the dependencies are in the security, and the software bill of materials gives us that. And then once we get that up and running, then we can talk about security incident response process. So we can't do that without the software bill of materials. From the security incident response process, that some of the items on that, especially if we need to get code audited, which is probably a requirement, we're going to need people's checkbooks for that because someone's going to have to pay for it. That's a very, very big job. I know that Frederik has been asking for EasyMesh to be audited for a while. I don't know where you are. Yep. Yeah. So that someone needs to pay for that. I've been talking to people today about a standard crypto API. So basically abstracting away talking to crypto hardware. So a standard API that you don't care whether there's a TE or software or a crypto coprocessor behind it. So you just have a standard way of intercepting or talking to the crypto backend. And you don't have to know what the original, the root of trust key is or anything like that. So there's be special keys on the hardware. We need a standard way of accessing contract data, so not necessarily contract itself. We need a flow management API so that you can use that data from contract because you don't always want to intercept. We've done packet interception, but you don't always want to necessarily intercept every packet. You want to just look at stuff and then maybe take that flow off the accelerator and then intercept it once you know what's going on. And on top of that, we want to standardize all of the work that we're doing. We want to push stuff to the BDF. So we have a data model, for instance, for the packet intercept, but where's David Cloetens? Is he here? Yay. I need to talk to you. And lots more. I don't think, seeing as Evgueni's not here, I don't think I owe him any beers anymore because I've had to do it on my own.
Settle the account.
Settle the account, yeah. And that's it for me.
Great.
Thank you, that was nice and quick.
Thank you. Okay, last but not least, I'd like to invite David Cloetens to the stage. He comes from SoftAtHome, and he's one of the chairs of the high-level.
Thank you, Dave. So my name is David Cloetens. I am co-chair together with João of the Purple High Level API Working Group. So let me start a bit with explaining what happened last year in the Purple High Level API Working Group, because Dave, I think a lot happened. I am looking at my Broadband Forum colleagues, and I also... So what happened on the front of BPF? So I think Tier 181 version 16 came out, Tier 369. Annex 3, Appendix 3, how do you guys call it? Version 3 came out. USB 1.3, okay. So what does this actually mean for us? So last year, we contributed, I think, around more than 30 plus data models. So that means that all these data models, they are now available in the spec. And with the latest USB 1.3, the USB broker, it's almost reality. And thanks to the people from Conscope, we are working on it. So, what are we doing this year? A lot of data model contributions, like usual. So let me highlight a few of them. Syslog rotation. We are extending PON again, firewall. I'm not going to go over all of them. I think it's quite a lot that we did this year. And do we have an expectation date? I think it will come out around beginning of January. Yeah, okay, beginning of January. So what's on the roadmap? On the roadmap, we have USB 1.4. So we would like to do best lessons learned of 1.3 integration and some enhancements. Of course, we will keep on improving the data models coming from the statement of work. And we will keep on improving the software modules API together with the LCM working group. And I think we'll also get a lot of inputs this year from the SDK, from the Tiger team of all the LCM app developers who needs to have an extra API. Oh, I need to come back. Wasn't there another slide? Dave, what happened to the other slide? I thought we had a wish list of standardization on testing. So
I would confess, but I did not have editing rights.
Okay, so. So we are working together with the people of QA Cafe and the prpl certification working group on standardizing and certifying the data model. And we would like to do the same for USB, for the internal services, have a way on how to test this. So that's all, folks. That's the update from the high-level API working group.
Thank you, and I do agree with you. We've had a big year for all the working groups. And I wanted to thank you and all the chairs and all the participants. It was a really good year, and we want to keep the momentum up in 24. Thank you.